He nodded slowly as he spoke. Ingeborg stared at her son. The excitement on his face confirmed something was bubbling behind his Bjorklund blue eyes. "Come on, Grandma, back to your story," Emmy urged. "Now, where was I?" "Lost in New York City in a snowstorm," Gould answered. I finally decided which direction to go. But just as I stepped forward, someone bumped me, and I started falling into the street. Suddenly, 2 strong hands grabbed my upper arms, and a man lifted me right back up on the sidewalk. Without thinking, I said, "Tak," and he answered, "You are welcome," in Norwegian. I looked up into the man's face and stuttered. "How do you know Norwegian?" Gould chimed in, and he said, "That's a long story, miss, but my nanny taught me." I half carried her back to the protection of the building because every time she put her weight on her foot, she started to collapse again. Both girls stared at him, their mouths in matching O formations. And so the charming young man hailed a cab and helped me up into the carriage. He asked where I needed to go, and I told him the docks to find the apple vendor to pay him what I owed. "And did you find him?" Thorliff asked. "We did. Mr. Gould tried to ignore my penny, but I insisted, and, polite young man that I was, I took her penny and paid the vendor, who sputtered and tried to refuse. But I was so disgusted that this young woman was out on the streets alone that I would have stuffed it down his gullet. I wanted to take her to the hospital to make sure her foot was not broken, but she insisted that it was just sprained and would be better in no time. I knew it wasn't broken, but it sure did hurt and was swelling up like a balloon. We should have gathered some of that snow and packed it around my foot." Gould moved from the porch railing to sit next to her on the swing. Ingeborg continued. "Instead, he hired that hack to drive us around the city, and he showed me all these wonderfully huge buildings and parks and even a college, and I was so amazed. I could have ridden around like that forever, but I gave him the address of the boarding house and asked him to take me there. I did so reluctantly. I considered taking her to my home and calling for a doctor to come look at her foot, but she was getting frantic to get back, so I did as she asked. When we got to the boarding house, 2 young men came striding up the sidewalk. I helped her out of the carriage, and she introduced me to her husband and his brother. Her husband was really put out with her, hardly even civil in his thanks to me. After the introduction, she hobbled over to the entry and went inside. I about collapsed just inside the door, but the woman who owned the boarding house took pity on me and helped me up to our rooms. "That was Grandpa Roald, right?" Inga asked. Ingeborg nodded. "Right. He was Thorliff's father." "You snitched an apple?" Inga stared at her pa. Thorliff shrugged. "I would never have stolen anything, but some boys who were playing there grabbed apples off the cart and tossed one to me. I was so proud I caught it, and oh, it tasted so good. And then I looked up, and my new mother was coming after me with fury on her face. You see, she had told me to stay in one place because she had to go back for something, and I disobeyed and followed those boys who had invited me to play. I thought I had lost him for good," Ingeborg said, "and I could have paddled his behind, but I was so thankful to have him back that I hugged him instead." "But still," Inga shook her head. "Pa, you sure caused a lot of trouble." "Be that as it may, that penny gave me a chance to meet that determined young woman, and now here we all are today." Gould gave Ingeborg a smile that made her heart flutter. Thorliff locked his hands around his bent knee. "All over an apple. Now that I think of it, isn't there another story about an apple that changed history?" Ingeborg shook her head. "Thorliff Bjorklund, you can't mix that story with this one. Just a comparison to test the Bible knowledge of our 2 girls." He nodded toward them. Emmy giggled. "Adam and Eve."